Before we get started, I'm going to have some fun here and point out my only wrong call being Wisconsin because it was so close, came under 1% currently, and this prediction from 2020. And I think the Democrats are screwed for 2024. You know, pick your poison. You can either pass a bunch of bills and the Republicans will use it against you, or you don't get control of the Senate and you can't do anything and the Republicans will use it against you. Or the progressive wing of the Democrats will use it against you. So 2024, Biden becomes a third guy not to seek re-election, since, you know, Calvin Coolidge, LBJ, they could have ran again, but they decided not to. So Kamala Harris probably is a Democratic nominee. So the Republicans, maybe Donald Trump comes back. I don't see how Harris wins that election, but that's me.
What can be and be unburdened by what has been, you know?
Tell us why Pennsylvania is impossible for Trump.
It's the Easter Bunny, okay? It doesn't exist.
There's not going to be a President Donald Trump.
Progress is to have the ability to have a vision and a belief and some faith in what can be unburdened by what has been.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
That's not going to happen.
David.
And then you say that Donald Trump has the best day in the entire world, completely outperforms expectations, and he wins all of the toss-up states. He wins all 5 of those states, plus that electoral college vote in Maine that he's after. If he wins all of the toss-ups, which would be insane because nobody wins all of the toss-up states, even if Donald Trump did win all of the toss-up states, he would still lose.
What can be unburdened by what has been.
Ultimately, the Democrats' problem is keeping the status quo, keeping a moderation is not going to create change. And maybe that's tied to social media, maybe that's tied to instant gratification. But nowadays, people need to see change and they need to see it quickly. So even if the change is radical and some people hurt, some people win, the point is that you see it happening actively.
Something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years.
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Differently than President Biden during the past 4 years.
Now, before some people give me too much credit, I will say that if you followed history, you see that there are circular patterns. Okay, things repeat themselves, and ultimately there is actually a limited amount of options and variations. Even though talk shows may discuss all these varieties, it's simply to generate discussion. For example, some people were shocked that Biden ended up becoming the nominee, but it was a natural progression. A lot of vice presidents do try to run for the party. Dan Quayle is the big failure in that. Bernie Sanders running again and losing again, I think due to some controversial circumstances, was also, I think, foreseeable because in the past there were other candidates for Republicans and Democrats that were popular, but the powers that be did not allow that to happen. Vance is the clear frontrunner, and honestly, with his skill set, I just don't see anyone challenging. People bringing up DeSantis are again concentrating on paper merit, whereas on a debate stage, it's a no contest. Gabbard is also going to be the first strong female pick on a major ticket with a former Democrat play, and both being ex-military. Gabbard, like Vance, is also incredibly well-spoken and under 50. This ticket simply checks off all the boxes. I think in terms of the electoral map, it's going to shift even more with Republicans finally winning back New Mexico and Virginia to match Bush in 2004, and New Hampshire for the first time since Bush in 2000. Vance, if nothing else, being from Ohio, will only consolidate the so-called blue wall states. Even Minnesota may be in play, but I have Jersey going close instead. Fun fact, Minnesota hasn't gone Republican since Nixon 72, so yeah. But Reagan only lost it by 3,000 votes as well. I am not going to predict the House, but I will chime in on the 2026 Senate elections. There will be 34 seats up with a special selection to fill Vance's seat in Ohio. I just don't see any way the Republicans lose their majority. Peters of Michigan, Ossoff of Georgia, Warner of Virginia, and Lujan of New Mexico are Democrats who could potentially lose their seats as opposed to any net Democrat gain. 2032 is the big one, not only being so far ahead, but an attempt at 3 consecutive terms for one party. That alone puts Vance Gabbard repeat at a disadvantage historically. For Democratic opposition, Michelle Obama is being brought up, which I think is oversimplified. First of all, Obama was shown to be out of favor in the last election, and another female candidate so soon will only look like pandering. Perhaps AOC, if we're trying to go extreme, like maybe some people would say doubling down, but Bernie Sanders was screwed over twice. Maybe he would have done better. We don't know, but the point is, if they're going to go female, I can only see AOC, as crazy as that sounds. It could be a sacrificial lamb situation, right? Sacrifice. One needs to remember the very real bag holder dilemma, okay? Major party candidates running against popular incumbents or administrations as a sacrificial lamb. George McGovern, Walter Mondale, Bob Dole, all candidates expected to lose, but hey, they'll always have presidential candidate on the resume and donors need tax write-offs. Okay, so AOC could be the candidate in 2028. If she loses, no big deal. She was at a huge disadvantage to begin with. Gavin Newsom is the easy bet, but he has the California marker against him. However, sacrificial lamb, he's a good sacrificial lamb. Josh Shapiro is the only viable pick that I see because he would likely win back Pennsylvania and stop any kind of New Jersey swing. The only question is what other states he could pick up. Could he win all of the blue wall and not lose any other states like New Hampshire? Look, when Cleveland won his 2 non-consecutive terms, you had the Panic of 1893. He also didn't support the annexation of Hawaii, so his party fell. So if history is completely repeating itself, then I guess Vance Gabbard would lose. But otherwise they win, and then 2032 is when I see a Michelle Obama possibly running. Now, fun projection. I think what would keep Ivanka from running in the future is her kids. The oldest turns 20 in 2036. Right, which could be a year she might potentially run in a scenario where Vance loses re-election in 2032, Democrats win, they're weak, and she runs in 2036. Or if it's a 2-term, it's a strong incumbency, she comes back and he runs in 2040. I still see Ivanka Trump if we do not have a female president by that point. And for those curious, Barron Trump is only eligible beginning in 2044 when he will be 38. So who knows, maybe if it's a popular administration, he cannot run prior to that. He can't run in 2040, but you don't know what the landscape is going to look like in 2044. So there you go.